I think yesterday, right, we saw some basic concepts related to Python and how different kinds of websites we went ahead and understood the criticality of learning Python and why we want to learn Python. And also, we went ahead and installed Anaconda for our learning. Okay. Now, at the same time, there is also another way that we can go ahead and learn Python is through Visual Studio, which we have already done, right? So, if you go ahead and see what we need for the Visual Studio is first thing I need is a Python. Okay, so go ahead and download Python latest version and install it. And once you install it, right, go to your command prompt and just type Python, and that will give you what version of Python is currently being installed. Okay, and that way you will be sure that there is Python already installed, or you can go ahead and say a version. That is also fine to give you what version of Python are you currently holding. Okay, so this specifically states that you have installed Python successfully. Okay, now once you install that, in order to run Python and related programs on Visual Studio Code, what you need is a couple of extensions. Okay, what extensions that I recommend is the very first one that I need for that Python running is uh, this extension called Python by Microsoft. Okay, so what this will do, this will help you to run the Python code on Visual Studio Code. This is the extension called Python. Already 72 odd million times that this has been downloaded. So I want you to install this on your Visual Studio Code if you want to run it on Visual Studio Code. Otherwise, yesterday what we saw, right, in order to run that on Anaconda, you can do that as well. Just install Anaconda completely, and that will help you to run on your Jupyter notebooks. That is also absolutely fine. So now, just I wanted to give you a couple of ways that I want you to learn that. One is through Anaconda and Jupyter notebooks. Second is through the Visual Studio Code. I want you to install this Python extension. Along with that, there is an extension called Jupyter. Okay, that also you can go ahead. Okay, this is the extension. If you install this Jupyter extension by Microsoft, already there are 53 odd million times this has been downloaded and installed. All right, one is Jupyter and another is Python. Okay, that's all you would need. Now, let's say I'm going to run a simple program. Let's say hello.py. Py is an extension for Python. Okay. Now, if I enter, it will automatically create Python. And let's say I want to say simple print. Okay. Hello world. And let me admit. Okay. Print hello world. I just save it. And now what I would like to do is, if I want to run this particular Python program, what I need to do on Visual Studio Code, just right click and say run Python file in the terminal. Okay. If I run it, automatically this particular code would be executed, and you can see my output right here, which is hello world. Okay, this is one way. Just right click and say run Python file in terminal. That would run your Python file, that is .py extension file, on your terminal. This is one way. Another is, let's say where am I currently in my C drive? Python. Yeah, I have navigated to the source code where the Python is currently, all my code resides, which is in the Python directory. If I go ahead and say dir, that will list down the Python file, which is hello.py. What I can do is directly in this in this terminal, I can go ahead and write Python followed by the hello.py. If I run that, either I can say hello.py completely, or just he and for tab out. If you enter the tab key, that is also fine. Okay. Or you can just say hello.py. This is also fine. If I press enter, this program would execute. Or you can say just he some letters followed by tab key. It will pick the right file that is available in that Python folder. Okay, this is also absolutely fine. Or if you have installed already py installed, then you can just type py as well. That is also absolutely fine. Hello.py, just type py and run the program, that will execute. Or you can go ahead and say uh, python hello.py. This is also absolutely fine. And if you want to go uh, python and tab out, this is also absolutely fine. You can go ahead and run your python code. All right. And another way that I can do is, yeah, you can go ahead and type this as well. What I can say, yeah, python 3, because we have installed the third version, right? You can go ahead and write python 3 as well. That is also fine. Okay, so I'm just giving you multiple options how you can run your python code. All right, this is from Visual Studio point of view. Okay, just you need to install a couple of extensions. One is called Python, which is for Microsoft, and Jupyter Notebooks. Currently you don't need Jupyter Notebooks if you are running a .py extension. You only need Jupyter Notebooks when you are running the extension file, which is ipynb, which is ipython notebook. Okay, why it is called ipynb? Ipynb is if you see IPYNB. What is this? It is nothing but it is an extension for Python notebooks. Okay. Now earlier this Jupyter notebooks, right? Jupyter notebooks was earlier known as IPython notebooks. Okay, that was the earlier representation of Jupyter network. Later it was changed to the name Jupyter. That is the reason you still have this extension IPYNB. If you see here, this is the extension IPYNB extension. Okay, which is nothing but IPython notebooks. All right. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and learn something about Python today. All right. Now, what is this Python programming language? So earlier, in the year 1991 or so, this Python, why did it was named as Python? It was being called from the inspiration of BBC, which is British Broadcasting Corporation show that was existing at that time, called as Monty Python's Flying Circus. Okay, that was the serial that used to be run at that time. And the founder, which is Guido, who was trying to use this particular word for the programming language that he has released at that point in time. So it has nothing to do with reptiles or anything like that sort. It is just an inspiration from the BBC show called Monty Python's Flying Circus. Okay, so this was the show at that time, and it has nothing to do with the Python. Okay, it's simply a programming language. Now, why do we need Python? I mean, another kind of a programming language per se. Okay, there are multiple uses that Python brings along with it. Okay, now what does Python do? Python has got multiple usages. The same programming language, what it does, it will help you to create the web applications. It will also, Python is very good in creating the workflows. Okay, workflow softwares that are being used. It is a go-to language for that preferences. All right. And it would be helpful in connecting the database on your server side computation. And that is the reason Python is very popular for server side programming nowadays. Even you can do a full stack development using Python, and majorly it is used on the server side programming because of its ease of usage and connectivity that it can develop with the multiple different types of databases, whether it is a SQL database or no SQL database, whatever it might be. And this can work and Python can work very seamlessly, and also help you to handle the read and modifying or write, execute the files from the server side. And at the same time, the more of recent days, because of the popularity in data science and machine learning, because of the excessive utilization in the data exploration, data mining, data visualization, data manipulation, all that being done using Python libraries. Multiple packages and Python libraries are available and developed, like matplotlib, numpy, or skitlearn, okay, and so on and so forth, plotly, and so on and so forth. There are like we saw yesterday, right? Anaconda itself has got some 8,000 odd packages and libraries that are readily available for you to download and utilize them, okay, and it's an open source. And that is the reason the popularity in of Python has skyrocketed, because of its usage in data science, big data, and computing the major statistical and mathematical related complex problems. Okay, that is the reason the usage of Python has increased dramatically. All right, and because Python is so easy and simple to learn, like your simple English language kind of a representation, and that is the reason the learning of Python is very, very, very easy. Okay, not to worry too much about the syntaxes. It's so easy to learn that you would see that it is similar to kind of an English language. Okay, and that has resulted in what? Rapid prototyping, and also what we call it as faster development of your product or the software. Okay, because of high available community of Python developers, and also ease of learning the language itself. All right, so now, with that being said, what is this Python all about? Python is nothing but it is an easy to learn and powerful programming language, and basically it's a high level and general purpose programming language. And when was, if you see a brief history of Python, right? It dates back to the year 1991, where Guido van Rossum, he's the inventor or discoverer or founder of this Python programming language. That is the time when it was first released. I mean, if you see, right, 1991, during the early dot-com bubble. So we had the JavaScript also during the same time, 95, 94, and Python was also just prior to the JavaScript. Okay, so it was very much at that contemporaries when this programming language has evolved. All right, and now and also this has got the object oriented programming, okay, like the same way that we have like C++. You can do that object oriented programming. And also the important part is, sometimes Python can be described as batteries included. What it means is, because of many standard built-in libraries that have come up with Python, because of the nature of the program, language itself, that it is open source, a lot of people have been contributing to this growth of this programming language. And because of that, like usually in the technology terms, right, they say Python is kind of like batteries included. What it means is, it means it comes up along with it many built-in standard libraries. You can just import them and utilize them in your programs. So now, just to give you, I know we have seen this very often time. We have also already seen this in when we are learning about JavaScript. Okay, it's the same thing. Like JavaScript, even Python is a interpreted language. Okay, it is not a compiled language like C++. It is an interpreted language like JavaScript, Perl, and Python. Okay, so always remember that Python is an interpreted programming language. What it means is, you do not have to compile and link and generate the object code. Because of that, you need to run your program. No, it's not that way. You can just use the program dynamically. Even that is the reason it supports dynamic typing. Okay, I'll come to that, what is meant by dynamic typing and how is it different from static typing. But for now, just understand that Python is an interpreted programming language. There is only one step involved from the source code to execution. Okay, there is no other in between steps like compiling the program and then interpreting the program, generating the uh, intermediate program modules. No, you don't need that. Okay, because of the interpreted nature of this programming language. All right, that is the reason Python can also be combined with other programming languages like C and execute them on the fly. That is the reason sometimes Python is called an extensible language. Okay, it can be extended to other languages. You can call the different modules from different programming languages, include them, and run through Python. All right. Now, if you observe the Python, we said about an interpreted programming languages. Yeah, that is the reason you don't have to compile them and link them before executing. Okay, that is the reason it will save considerable amount of time. That is a road to market or a faster access to the market. What we say, because for the development of the program is very quick. There is a less turnaround time for developing and executing the programs. Okay, and at the same time, what you can see is you can experiment multiple language features and also to write throwaway programs. What it means is you can just write the programs, test them fast, and deploy them very easily and quicker. Okay, next we want to understand, just to tell you, is Python is compact and very much readable because it appears as if like an English kind of a language, very easy to read and comprehend. Even for someone who does not have an experience related to a development or programming environment, even they can understand the syntax of Python very easily. Okay, so it is not that complex syntax like we have in C++ or any or Java for that matter. All right, so that is the reason that Python programs are typically much shorter and much shorter than the other programming languages like compiled programming languages like C++ and Java, for following reasons. What is that? High level data types currently exist and they allow us to express complex problems. Like what it means is there are many high level data types already built in Python. Okay, like normally, there are primitive data types, right? Like integers, a float, which represent decimals, strings, and all that, arrays and all that. But at the same time, additional to this, there are many built-in high-level data types like lists, tuples, okay, and sets and frozen sets, and all these kind of different high-level data types that comes with Python. Okay, that it means you, instead of writing 10 lines of code to generate a data type, you can just represent that in a single line. Okay, that is the power of Python. And at the same time, the statements grouping, okay, it is done by indentation. We'll come to that, what is meant by indentation and why is it of so important for Python rather than for other programming language. It is very specific to Python, mind you. We'll see what is this meant by indentation and how this represents a block of code. Okay, and no variable or argument declarations are necessary. Yeah, what it means is you don't need to declare or initialize a variable before you are trying to use it. That is the reason this Python is sometimes called as dynamically typed. Okay, now uh, let's talk about Python comments. Okay, the very first thing is, if you go, let me open first notebook. Let's say, okay. Now this is a simple. What I can do is I can go start from the Anaconda itself. Okay. Now, what I need you to do is start from the Anaconda Navigator and launch your Jupyter notebooks. And that Jupyter notebooks would suddenly open in your default browser. Okay, so what is the default browser that I'm trying to use is Google Chrome. And inside that I will go to my desktop, and here I have a code. Inside that I have a folder called Python, and here I'm going to create a new file. Maybe this is the one you need to open, that is notebooks, okay, which is from Python 3 IPY kernel. Just open it, and that would launch a Python Jupyter notebook with, let me, which is untitled. Okay, I can go ahead and say first first program. Okay, just naming it as first program, and I have saved it. Okay, now if you see, this is how the Jupyter notebook would look like. There are multiple things that you need to understand here. This individual thing is called as cell, okay, where we can write the Python code and run that. Okay, and if I go ahead and change this code to marker, then this will change. If you observe from code, if you see this, this is where I can write the code like 22 plus 23. If I say shift enter, then that would be executing. Okay, shift enter is the shortcut. Or um, if I say, I can go ahead and run this as well. Okay, run cell, and it will run and it will show the output right below. Okay, now this particular highlighted in green is called a cell, and this is an active cell. Whenever it is an active cell, it would be in edit mode. This pencil will appear, and if I move to the next cell, right, then this is the next cell, and this will be in green, and that is what it means. This is a active cell, and this is in the edit mode. And if I come down here, if it is in blue, this is not an this is not in an active mode now. Okay, it is an inactive mode. If you want to go ahead and type within the cell, then this edit button appears, and now it appears in green. This will be an active mode. You can run the code, whatever the code that you want to create. Next cell, what is meant by comments? How do you write comments? In HTML, right, you had this comment. Okay, this was the comment that you used to write in HTML. This was a HTML comment. Whereas in CSS, this was the comment. Okay, this was the comment in CSS. And in the same way, in Python, the comment always start with a hash symbol, hash, and followed by any text. Okay, this is the representation for commenting in Python code. Okay, this is a Python code comment. Okay, now if I execute this, nothing will be shown here in the output, because your whatever you write in comments is a, it will not be executed. Okay, it is just for instructions to the developers or someone who reads the program, and it gives more details about the program what you are coded. Okay, this is about a comment. Okay, comment in Python starts with hash symbol. Okay, and then the Python will render the rest of the line as comment. This is a comment in Python. Now, earlier we talked about indentation, right? We'll understand why is indentation so important in Python. What is this indentation? Indentation is nothing but the indentation. Let me say indentation in Python. Okay. Now, if I enter a tab key, this is what 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Usually by default, tab will have 4 spaces. Okay. Now, whenever you are writing in Python, right? Like for example, let's say, uh, let's say what happens is, like if uh, 5 is greater than 2, or 5 is greater than 4. Okay, now if I press enter, this will automatically be indented with a tab. And I can say here print phi is larger. Now what will happen if I execute this, the if statement, and this whatever follows the indentation is a block of code in Python. You don't have a curly bracket. Like if you observe, just giving you a relationship with the JavaScript, just an analogy. Like if I say um, 5 is greater than 4, if it is true, then I have a curly brackets, open and close the curly brackets, then I would say console.log. Okay, console.log, then I'll say uh, 5 is larger. Now this curly bracket in JavaScript is called a block of code, right? In the same way, in Python, after colon, whatever it follows, right? This is an indentation. You always need to have an indentation or a space, minimum one space. Okay, minimum one space. It need not be four spaces. Even you can type just one space is also fine. Okay, ideally, the best practice for that is to have a one tab whenever you add a code. This is called indentation in Python, and that will define the block of code in Python. Like the same way, it refers to the space at the beginning of the code line. Okay, in other programming languages, indentation is used for what? Readability. You might say I use the tab in, if you observe, if I go to let's say let's say if I open a code, and simple is, let's say, about. Okay, now here if you observe, guys, this is called an indentation. It just improves the readability. Okay, nothing about in HTML. It doesn't impact anything. It's just looks a prettier and well formatted code. Okay, that's what it is. It will be looking more organized, and it doesn't have any meaning to this indentation. But the indentation has got a special meaning in Python. Okay, and that special meaning is what we call it as Python indentation, and that will define the block of code. All right, now let's go here and see. Python uses indentation to indicate a block of code. Like Python will throw an error if you skip indentation. Definitely it will throw an error. If you see here, if I don't add this, just say I'll add like that, and I'll try to execute it. Now if you observe, expected an indented block. Okay, it Python expects that. If I go ahead and tab out and then run this code, this will be executing. Phi is the larger, that it'll print out. All right, so what it means is indentation would indicate a block of code in Python. This is very important, guys. Did you guys understand this? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, let's go ahead and see what's next in store for us. Let's go ahead and see what are variables in Python. So, like in any programming language, variables are what? It will store data. That's it. Any kind of variables can be any types. They are the placeholder or the container for storing data. If it is an array, it will store the ordered list. If it is an object in JavaScript, it will store the unordered key value pairs. And if it is an integer, it will store only the integer values. If it is a float, it will store the decimal values and all that. All right, now what it means is variables in Python Python, or for that matter any programming language, will store the data values. All right. And now currently always understand that like in JavaScript, even Python will support dynamic typing. What it means by dynamic typing: dynamic typing or dynamically typed languages are those where the interpreter assigns a variable uh, a type at the runtime based on the values. What it means is, if I go here and let's say, if had it been a C programming language, which is a statically typed programming language, in that you need to write int x is equal to 23. Okay, this is the ideal way. Initially I'm saying this x is of integer type, data type, and it stores a value called 23. Instead of this, now in JavaScript, because in Python, which is a dynamically typed programming language, I can straight away say x is equal to 23. Okay, which means the x is storing a numerical value of 23, or y is equal to 23.25, which means y is storing a float or a decimal number. Okay, or z is equal to hello, which is storing a string value, because I have put that into a double quotes, or it might be a single quotes as well. That's also fine. You can put that in single quotes or in double quotes, like the way we do it in JavaScript. That is also absolutely fine. And now these are this is how the variables will take the data type depending on the values that they are storing. If it is storing 23, which means it is a x will be of integer type. And if it is storing a decimal number, then y will be of float data type. And if it is storing a string within the quotes, then z would be what? It would be a string data type. Okay, that is the reason Python is called as dynamically typed programming language, because the interpreter assigns a variable a type at the runtime whenever it is executing a runtime. That is when whatever the value of the variable that is stored at that time, on depending on that, the data type is assigned to a variable. Okay, now for that matter, if x is equal to, if I say mm, 23. Okay, now x will become what? If I go ahead and say print x comma y comma z, if you see, x is printing this value 23, which is of a string data type. Now if I go, there is a way that I can find what kind of a data type. Like in JavaScript, right, we had a built-in method called type of, right, that would give me what type of data type it is. In the same way, in Python there is a method called just type followed by, within the brackets, if I write the variable name, and this x has become string now. Okay, because it started with x is equal to 23, and later in the program it has been changed to a string, and that is the reason the latest data type of x has become string. Did you guys understand this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, what are the possible ways, or how do you name these variables? Okay, now what are the variable names? Like, you can't just give x y z and something. This is a very worst naming convention. Okay, this is not how the variables should be named. Variables should be self-explanatory. Just by reading the name of the variable, the developer or anyone who sees or writes the code would be able to comprehend what that means. Okay, it should give certain explanation about what kind of value that the variable name is storing. Okay, so always try to avoid the usage of x y z a b c, all that kind of things. It is not the best practice, it is the worst practice. Okay, now let's understand what kind of names that we can give for a variable. Okay, variables must start with a letter or a underscore. Okay, it should always start with a letter or an underscore, which means the letter, which means the variables cannot start with a number. It cannot start with a number. It cannot contain spaces in between. It cannot start with symbols, or it cannot contain the symbols for that matter in Python. Okay, so what variables can only contain? It contains only alphanumeric characters, which is A to Z, small and capital, or numbers 0 to 9, which is includes all the 10 digits, and the underscore. Only these are the allowed values. Okay, and like JavaScript, even Python is case sensitive. Okay, let's go and take one by one example. Okay, now naming variables. Okay, so now let's say, if I go ahead and create value, first name is equal to, let's say, Jack. Now what it contains? It contains all the alphabets. Okay, it contains only alphabets. It doesn't contain anything. It contains in capital or in a small case. That's what it contains. Okay, now if I go ahead and print first name, this is a valid representation. Okay, it will say Jack. Now if I had given a name starting with let's say, mm, first item is equal to coffee. Now, if you see, it is starting with a number, and if I execute that, this is an incorrect because it is an invalid syntax. Always the variable name cannot start with a number. Okay, so this is an incorrect representation. And at the same time, if I go ahead and say pin code is equal to 587101. What is this contain? A variable name with a space. That is also not allowed. You cannot have a space in a variable name. This is incorrect. Had it been just a pin code this way, this is absolutely fine. Okay, I can go ahead and print the pin code. Okay, that is good. So now, and at the same time, case sensitive. Like for example, let's say price is equal to 25, and at the same time price is equal to 99. Now this price and this price are different. Why? Because this price all are in small case, whereas here P is in capital letter. Hence, if I go ahead and print both, right, both are different. That is the reason they are storing different values. That is the reason we say Python is case sensitive. All right, so Python and JavaScript both are case sensitive, whereas HTML is not case sensitive. It is case insensitive. All right, now let's go ahead and see. You cannot use any special characters, whereas in JavaScript, right, dollar was a very much used. Okay, I can say dollar amount is equal to 12.25. This was a valid expression. Okay, this was valid in JavaScript, but now in Python, you cannot use a special characters. Any special characters are not allowed in Python. You cannot name a variable using a dollar or anything. You just need to enter this amount is equal to something. Okay, this is acceptable. Or you can say amount included. You can use underscore. This is acceptable. If I execute, it will execute. Okay, amount underscore is a valid usage in naming a variable in Python. Okay, so just to recapitulate, uh, in Python the variable names should only start with letters or underscore. Okay, even this is acceptable. I can just say included. This is also acceptable. You can start with the underscore. That is absolutely fine in Python. But you cannot start with a number, cannot contain spaces in a variable name, can only have A to Z, small and capital both, 0 to 9 and underscore. These are only the allowed or permitted in Python. And Python is case sensitive, uppercase and lowercase. If you write any variable, then it means they are both different. Okay, and you cannot use reserve words, like for example, in Python, right? You cannot use like print. Print is equal to 25 23. You cannot do that. Okay, now if I go ahead and say print, what will happen? This is the incorrect usage. All right, you cannot go ahead and use the reserve words. That's not permitted um, in JavaScript, in Python. All right. Now, with that being said, uh, we'll talk about something called as outputting variables in Python. Just now, I know we have already done that. We have seen in this statement how we are trying to put an output in the in variables we need to output. Usually, what happens is in Python there is a function, built-in function called print. This is a in Python built-in function for writing to the output. Okay, whether it might be you want to print any static text to it, or you want to add some variables inside it, all that can be done using this Python built-in function called print, inbuilt method. Okay, now this function is used to output variables. The output variables, if you have, like for example, let's say, so now guys, here is what I wanted to show, how to output the variables. Okay, now one is print price. Let's say what I have defined, the price is equal to 120, and I wanted to add a price to it. Now what I have done, I have put down the price, and if you observe, so what it prints, it will print the price name. Okay, now if I recall it, what is the value it is storing? Yeah, now output the multiple variables. If I have to output the multiple variables like price and price, both are different, right? And if I want to output this, what will happen? If I want to output this, if you observe, this price and this price, I cannot use put two values right here. What I need to do is either I can use concatenation, okay, which can be done by plus sign. I can add these two, which is price one is to 120 and price is 24. The sum of that is 120, 144. What is this value it is storing? Yeah, price plus price. Me print what price contains. Yeah, so it's fine. Now this contains 120, 120. This contains 24, and if I use plus sign, then it will be summed up. Okay, if it is an integer. Okay, and if the values are of string data types, then it would be a concatenation. Here, if I use a plus as a operator, which is an arithmetic operator, it will sum up the values and show me the final output. And if I want to show both the values differently, then what I need to do, I need to say print comma. Okay, print comma price. Then I am going to use what, 120 space 24. Okay, that is what it will show, 120 space 24. So always when you are outputting the variables which are multiple values, you need to use what, comma. Okay, now there is also what you can do, plus operator you can use to output variables, but they will be of string data type. Like for example, let's say uh, company is equal to, let's say, apple. Apple model is equal to iPhone 14 Pro. Now if I want to uh, add these or concatenate these, then I can use a plus operator. I can say company plus there is a model. I can do this. Okay. Now what it will do, company Apple, there is no space. Understand this. When I do concatenation, it will directly concatenate right after the first value. In order to add space, again, you need to add a space and then concatenate that, like the way we do it in JavaScript, right? So you add a space and then you add a concatenation that will create this space. Apple iPhone Pro. All right, or I can say hyphen here, that's also fine. Apple hyphen iPhone 14 Pro. All right, so in strings this will work as a concatenation, but for integers it will work as a arithmetic sum operator, arithmetic operator plus. Okay, so did you understand this, guys?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay, good. So now let's go ahead and see some of the data types that you need to understand through Python. What are the some of the major data types? Just understand what I have highlighted here, right, in blue. These are pretty, yeah. Now, just to show you some of the things here, right? 90% of the time, these are the ones that we are going to use in terms of whenever we are using the data types in Python, which is int and float. These are the numeric data types. Okay, categories is a numeric. And if you see strings, that is a text, you are representing a text. Whereas list and tuple and range are called sequences. These are kind of a ordered sequence. Okay, and then there is a dictionary, what we call it as dict, which is for unordered key value pairing, which is basically for mapping. And set is again an unordered collection of unique objects. Like we'll talk about that, how they are different from objects and how they are different from dictionaries and all that. There is also something called as frozen set, which will be immutable version of the Python set objects. We'll talk about that. And boolean, as the name itself suggests, either it is true or false. And then there is something called as none data type, which will store indicates no value.